I never would have guessed that a plain old suitcase could flip my entire world upside down until I realized what was inside didn't belong to me at all. Name's Elias Mercer. I'm 36, and I work as a UX designer in Fairhaven, Oregon. Most of my days are spent crafting digital interfaces for a rising tech startup that's trying to make its mark in a crowded market. My wife, Lena Whitmore, she's 34, works downtown as a creative director for one of the top advertising firms in the city. We've built a pretty good life in this sleek, sun-drenched apartment up in Silver Ridge. The place just kind of breathes creativity, like the scent of fresh coffee hanging in the air. We first met 8 years ago at a design conference in Ashwood, and right from the start, she had this unshakable confidence, razor-sharp mind, and a smile that felt like sunshine on a cold morning. I was gone the second she looked at me. 3 years into dating, we tied the knot. Our friends in the design scene called us the power couple, like something out of a modern fairy tale. Honestly, it felt like that to me too. Everything just fit. At least, it used to. Lately, though, something shifted. Lena's been heading out of town more often, claiming she's meeting with clients or leading pitch sessions for her newest campaigns. I'd catch her staring at her phone, a soft smile tugging at her lips, or she'd avoid my eyes like she was holding something back. I chalked it up to work stress. She's always taken her career seriously. But deep down, there was this gnawing feeling in my gut, like static in a clear radio signal. Just wouldn't go away. It all started small. A canceled dinner here. Late nights at the office there. But that uneasy feeling kept growing, slowly but surely, until it felt like something big was creeping around the corner. Before I dive deeper into this story, I'm curious, where are you tuning in from? Drop your location in the comments, and if this tale grabs you, go ahead and subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. So, picture this, a typical Fairhaven evening, all gray skies and steady drizzle. The city buzzed just beyond the fogged-up windows, and I was holed up in my home office, adjusting the details on a design prototype. The glow from my monitor was the only light in the room. In the bedroom, Lena was getting ready for another business trip, this one to San Aurelio, and her flight was early. I could hear her humming some tune I didn't recognize. Usually, I'd tease her about her singing, but that night, I just sat there, frozen. Something held me back. Call it a gut feeling. Or fate, maybe. Whatever it was about to hit like a wrecking ball. I finished up earlier than usual and wandered toward the bedroom, thinking I'd lend a hand. The shower was running, echoing off the bathroom tiles. On the bed, her suitcase was open, half-packed, clothes folded the way she always did, like origami. A light yellow silk scarf, the one she never travels without, was draped over the edge. I smiled a little, thinking how she always forgets small stuff, like her charger or that travel-size perfume. Figured I'd sneak something in, just a little gesture to show I was thinking of her. But as I lifted the top layer of shirts, letting my fingers brush the soft fabric, something unusual peeked out from beneath. A flash of deep red lace. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, carefully, I pulled it out. Lingerie. Bright scarlet. Lacy, seductive, and definitely not anything she's ever worn for me. My heart rate shot up. Maybe it was a surprise for us? A romantic twist? That's what I told myself, tried to believe it. Then I spotted something else, tucked off to the side. A fresh box of condoms. Still sealed. I couldn't deny it anymore. The room spun slightly, like the floor had shifted under my feet. My pulse roared louder than the sound of the water still running in the shower. I stood there, frozen, holding those things, proof I couldn't unsee. In all our years together, we'd never needed condoms. And that lingerie? It sure as hell wasn't meant for me. Not like this. The truth hit me like a freight train. She wasn't packing for a solo business trip. She was bringing these things for someone else. The water shut off. Panic gripped me, but I shoved it down. I hurried to put everything back, carefully covering the evidence with her neatly folded shirts. My hands were trembling, but I made sure it all looked untouched. Lena walked out wrapped in a towel, beads of water tracing down her shoulders. She smiled at me, one of those warm, familiar smiles, and had no idea I just uncovered the biggest betrayal of our marriage. I forced a smile back, keeping my voice calm. "Try not to be gone too long," I said, even though my chest felt like it was about to cave in. "I've got something special planned for when you get back." She gave me a casual nod and turned toward the bathroom mirror to work on her hair. I walked out of that room holding it together on the outside. But inside, I was a volcano ready to blow. I wasn't about to confront her, not yet. I'd play her game, but I'd be the one calling the shots now. Whatever she was hiding, I'd uncover it all. And when I did, she'd wish she'd never packed that damn suitcase. Morning came fast and hit hard. I hadn't slept a wink. My thoughts had been spinning all night, chasing the same two images over and over, the red lace and that unopened box of condoms. Like some twisted math problem I couldn't solve. Lena was up before dawn, moving around the apartment quietly, like a thief in our own home. I just lay there in bed, barely breathing, eyes half open, watching how the sunrise painted soft shapes on the ceiling. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, but the air still felt damp, like the walls themselves were sweating with tension. I heard the suitcase zip shut out in the living room. Each sound echoed, cold and final. I finally peeled myself out of bed, pulling on an old gray hoodie as I stepped into the hallway, feeling like I was walking into the last chapter of something. She stood near the door, buttoning her coat. Hair pulled back just right, makeup flawless. She looked like she was heading into a world I didn't belong in. I moved into the kitchen and gripped my coffee mug, mostly to keep from shaking. She glanced at me, just for a second, and something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Nerves? Hard to say. I kept my face blank, letting the heat of the coffee hold me to the moment. You want a ride to the airport? I asked, doing my best to sound relaxed, like it was just a casual offer. Inside, though, I was anything but calm. I was bracing myself, waiting to see how she'd answer. She gave a small shake of her head while adjusting the strap of her bag. "No, I already called an Uber," she said, brushing off the offer like it was no big deal. "No need to mess up your morning," she added, forcing a smile that didn't even come close to reaching her eyes. I nodded slowly and took another sip of coffee, trying to keep the tension out of my voice. "All right then. Have a good flight. Don't forget, I've got a little surprise waiting for you when you get back." Her lips curled just slightly, more of a twitch than a smile. "Thanks," she muttered before slipping out the door. The quiet click behind her might as well have been a gunshot. It echoed through the apartment, final and sharp. I just stood there, staring at the space where she'd been, my coffee now cold and untouched. That moment sealed it for me. I wasn't going to sit back and play the passive husband. No way. Setting the mug down, I turned and headed straight for the bedroom. My heart pounded like a drum inside my chest. The suitcase was gone, but the scent of her perfume still hung faintly in the air, lingering like a ghost. I moved through the room slowly, scanning every corner like I was a detective at a crime scene. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, just something, anything that slipped through the cracks of her perfect little performance. That's when I noticed the drawer on her nightstand, slightly ajar like it had been left that way in a rush. 3 long strides took me there, and I gently pulled it open. Inside was the usual clutter, half-used lip balm, a pen with no cap, a few wadded-up receipts. But something caught my eye, partly hidden under a crumpled sticky note. A hotel key card. Plain white. No logo I recognized. Just a magnetic stripe and a small nick on the corner. I picked it up, turning it over slowly, trying to make sense of it. No writing, no room number, nothing. Just cold plastic. Why leave this behind? Was it old? Something from a previous trip? Or was it meant to be used soon, just waiting for the right moment? I slid it into my pocket, unease growing like a knot in my gut. Then my phone buzzed on the bed, making me jump. I lunged for it, half expecting Lena to have forgotten something. Maybe a charger or her boarding pass. But no, it was a notification from our shared credit card app. A charge from the day before, $200 at a boutique in North Grove. I scrolled back and spotted another one just like it, dated a week earlier. That wasn't a store she normally visited. Lena usually stuck to the artsy little shops around Bayview. Curious now, I tapped on the store's link. The website loaded slowly, but when the images popped up, my heart dropped. Lingerie. High-end, sexy, and bold. The same kind I found in her suitcase. The bedroom suddenly felt like it was closing in on me. I sat down hard on the bed, my thoughts racing. I could feel the keycard pressing against my leg through my jeans. She'd bought that red lingerie set just yesterday, hours before packing it away. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment romantic surprise. This was something else. Something premeditated. And the condoms? They weren't an afterthought either. Every piece of this pointed to one conclusion. She was bringing them for someone else. Someone waiting for her in San Aurelio. My fists clenched without thinking. I wanted to call her right then, demand an explanation, force the truth out of her. But I held back. Blowing up now would tip my hand too early. She'd lie, twist the story, and feed me some carefully rehearsed lines. No, I couldn't let that happen. Not yet. I stood up and began pacing across the room, my shadow stretching and shrinking in the dim light. No, she wasn't getting away with this. I was going to find out everything. I had the keycard. I had the charges. There were clues, leads I could follow. I grabbed my laptop from the study and set up at the kitchen table, the windows casting the gray Fairhaven skyline like a painting in motion. Outside, the city looked moody and restless, like it knew something was brewing. I started digging, searching for any hotel matches tied to the boutique. I tried every combo I could think of, the boutique's name, nearby hotels in San Aurelio, anything that might connect the dots. Nothing solid yet, but I wasn't giving up. She had a secret, and I was going to drag it out into the light. The coffee I'd made earlier sat stone cold on the counter. I didn't care. I leaned back in my chair, holding the keycard in one hand, phone in the other. My eyes were dry, but I wasn't tired. Lena probably thought she was playing this game alone, flying off to San Aurelio with her perfectly packed lies. But the truth? Her plan was already starting to fall apart. I was watching. I was following the trail. And when she came back expecting the same old Elias, the one who smiled and nodded and never asked too many questions, she was going to find someone else entirely. Not angry, not screaming, something much worse. The apartment felt hollow without her, even though she hadn't even been gone a full day. I stayed at the kitchen table, the laptop's pale glow painting shadows across my face. The keycard lay beside me, its chipped edge catching the light like a wink from the dark. I kept searching, cross-referencing boutique purchases, hotel chains, anything that might close the loop. Still nothing. The answers remained just out of reach. Then my phone buzzed again. I glanced down, expecting another card notification. But this was different. A message from a number I didn't recognize. Elias, it's Graham Voss. The Velvet Tap tonight at 9. Sharp. I know about Lena. My stomach dropped. Graham Voss, the CEO of Lena's agency. Polished, sharp, always in tailored suits, always in control. I'd shaken his hand a few times at company functions. Every time, he gave me this look like he already knew what game he was playing. Now he was texting me. About her. This wasn't a coincidence. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed out a quick reply. See you there. I slid the keycard back into my jacket pocket and grabbed my coat. The sidewalks glistened from the earlier rain, and the cool night air wrapped around me as I headed for Stonewell District. The Velvet Tap was just as I remembered, dimly lit, exposed brick, and low jazz humming through the air. A kind of place where people kept secrets over drinks. I walked in right on time, eyes scanning the room. And there he was, Graham, sitting in the corner with a glass of bourbon in hand. He spotted me, gave a small nod, and motioned me over. His face gave away nothing. But mine? I was ready for answers. The leather seat gave a soft groan as I lowered myself into it, facing him across the table. He skipped the small talk entirely. You look like hell, Elias, he said, swirling his drink slowly, eyes on the glass more than me. I offered a vague shrug, didn't bother pulling my hands from my coat pockets. The keycard inside pressed cold and firm against my thigh, a constant reminder. Been a long day, I muttered. What do you know about Lena? Graham leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table's worn surface, like he was settling in for something serious. His stare locked onto mine, sharp and steady, like he was dissecting me without blinking. I've been watching her for a while, he said, calm but deliberate. She's not who you think she is. Without another word, he slipped a hand into his coat and pulled out a USB drive. He set it down in front of me, pushing it across the scarred wood with a quiet scrape. My pulse jumped, but I held myself back, resisting the urge to snatch it up right away. What's on it? I asked, keeping my voice low. A faint, almost smug smile tugged at his mouth, but there was something darker behind it. Proof, he said. Emails. Chat logs. Photos. She's been working with Silas Monroe since the summer. That name hit me like a truck. Silas Monroe. I knew him. Everyone in our circle did. The guy's work had this brooding, high-contrast look that made people pause. Lena used to rave about his photos every chance she got. Back then, I brushed it off. But suddenly everything clicked into place in a way that made my stomach turn. I reached for the USB, rolling it in my palm, its smooth surface cool against my skin. I felt the tension crawl up through my shoulders. Why are you showing me this? I asked, eyes narrowing on him. He leaned back, clearly unbothered, sipping his bourbon like we were just chatting about the weather. Call it protecting the brand, he said. Lena's gotten sloppy. She's a risk to all of us. I want her gone, but quietly. He glanced at me with meaning. That's where you come in. I tilted my head, unease tightening in my chest. What's your angle? I asked. Graham's grin widened, the kind that says he's thought this through already. I'll give you everything you need to take her down. All I'm asking is that you hand it off to Vanta and Company in San Aurelio, our biggest competitor. Let them make it public. That way, my hands stay clean, and you get your revenge. He let the silence settle, giving his words space to sink in. Face it, Elias. She's been playing you from the start. The background noise of the bar seemed to fade away as I took it all in. I stared at the drive, thoughts spiraling. This wasn't just cheating. This was a deliberate con, a campaign of lies and manipulation. And I'd been the fool buying it all. I pictured her arriving in San Aurelio, suitcase in hand, Silas waiting with that smug grin. My grip on the drive tightened. I'm in, I said, voice steady. Graham gave a satisfied nod and downed the rest of his drink. Good. Go through the files. You'll get the full picture. I didn't say a word as I left the bar. The USB sat heavy in my pocket, like it was burning through the fabric. The ride home was a blur, just headlights smearing into long streaks as the city passed me by. Once inside my apartment, I headed straight to my laptop, plugged in the drive. My heart was pounding so loud it was all I could hear. The screen lit up. Several folders. I opened the first one, message threads between Lena and Silas. It started out innocent enough, then moved into flirting, and by the end, it was downright intimate. They talked about hotels, meetings, coded transactions, financial setups that were anything but clean. The next folder hit harder. Photos, grainy surveillance shots showing them together. In cars. At cafes. Her hand brushing his shoulder. That kind of thing. But it was the last folder that shattered me. Spreadsheets. Real, detailed accounts showing diverted funds, fake invoices, and payments. Every single one signed with Lena's unmistakable initials. I slumped back in my chair, breath catching in my throat. The room spun a little. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a full-blown con job. The woman I married wasn't just unfaithful. She was a strategist, a cold operator who'd built an entire false identity around me. I pulled out the keycard and placed it next to the computer. What I thought was just a souvenir from one of her business trips was actually a piece of the puzzle. A part of her scheme I'd almost missed. Graham had handed me a weapon, and I planned to use it. But I'd play the long game. Let her come back, thinking she'd won. Then I'd start tearing it all down, bit by bit, just like she did to me. The USB stayed on my desk, practically glowing with the weight of what it held. While Lena lived her San Aurelio fantasy, blissfully unaware of the storm I was stirring back in Fairhaven, I sat in the shadows, lit only by the faint city lights filtering through my blinds. Graham's plan echoed in my mind. Send it to Vanta, let them handle the takedown. Clean. Precise. No blowback. But that was too easy. I wanted her to squirm first. To feel the same dread she made me live with. The next morning, I got to work. Sent an encrypted email to Vanta. Attached a few choice files from the drive, a spreadsheet signed by Lena, plus a cryptic note. Check your latest campaign budgets. More to follow. I hit send. Watched it vanish. They'd dig in. It would take time. And that gave me room to apply pressure elsewhere. I scrolled through my phone and found Miles, an old college buddy who owed me. He wrote for a local creative blog now. I shot him a quick message. Inside tip, Silas Monroe's running billing scams. Might be worth a look. He replied within minutes. Interesting. I'm on it. Later that day, his blog posted something cryptic. No names, no direct shots. Just a quiet whisper questioning Silas's business practices. That was all it took. Fairhaven's creative crowd was small, and whispers spread fast. I let myself smile. Silas's golden boy image wouldn't survive the rumors for long. But my plan wasn't anywhere near finished. I opened my laptop again, this time navigating through the agency's internal audit portal. Back when things were good between Lena and me, when we still shared everything, she'd given me her login credentials. Apparently, she never bothered changing the password. That little slip turned out to be a gift. I combed through the system, sifting through logs until I found what I was looking for, a trail of expense reports tied to Silas's photo assignments. They looked fishy, overinflated costs, vague descriptions. I sent them off anonymously to the audit department with a simple note. Take a closer look. As the hours ticked by, I kept weaving my net tighter. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Next, I reached out to someone who worked at Silas's regular coffee spot up in Silver Ridge, a barista I'd chatted with before. Nothing dramatic, just a passing comment about hearing whispers regarding Silas's billing practices. In a city like Fairhaven, especially in the creative crowd, those kinds of rumors move fast. By that evening, I could already feel the tension rippling outward. Lena was flying back the next day. She had no idea the ground beneath her was already shifting. That night, I made dinner, her favorite, a classic burger, just the way she liked it. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and familiar. From the outside, it looked like a sweet gesture. But behind it, my intentions were far from kind. I ate alone, chewing mindlessly, the taste bland. Every bite gave me more time to think about my next move. She walked through the door the following evening, dragging her suitcase behind her like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I didn't get up, just stayed on the couch, a beer in hand, pretending to be wrapped up in whatever was playing on TV. She looked wiped. Her usually tight ponytail had come undone, and her shoulders slumped under invisible weight. "Hey," I said casually, flicking my eyes up for a second. "How was San Aurelio?" She kicked off her shoes and left her suitcase by the door. "Exhausting," she replied. "Glad to be home." She headed to the fridge for water, her movements jittery, not quite right. I watched her closely, trying to figure out if she knew yet. Maybe Vanta had already made their move. I stood and stretched, keeping my tone light. "Busy meetings?" I asked. She nodded, sipping her water. "Just client stuff. The usual." Then her phone buzzed. She snatched it up too fast and slipped it into her pocket like nothing happened. I didn't say a word, just pulled her burger out of the oven. "Figured you'd be hungry," I said, setting it on the table. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks, Elias. You're sweet." She sat down, picked at the burger more than she ate it, her eyes glued to her phone. That's when I caught it, her fingers tapping out an anxious rhythm on the table. I'd never seen her do that before. I leaned against the counter, sipping my beer slowly, letting the silence do some of the work. "Everything okay?" I asked, sounding casual. She froze for half a second, then shook her head. "Just tired. Long trip." I gave a slow nod, but didn't look away. I could feel it. She was unraveling, and she didn't even know I held the thread. Over the next few days, I tightened things up. Vanda wanted more proof, and I delivered. This time, it was a set of emails between her and Silas, coordinating a fake vendor payment. Clear as day. Meanwhile, Miles's blog post was catching fire. Silas's name was all over local forums, with people quietly asking questions. Then I got a message from a mutual contact. "What's going on with Silas? Heard he's getting blacklisted." I played dumb. Weird. First I'm hearing of it. But inside, I savored every word. Lena felt it too. One night she came home pale and shaken, gripping her phone like it was her only lifeline. She barely said a word, just muttered something about a tough day and vanished into our bedroom. Later, I followed her in under the excuse of needing my charger. Her laptop was open on the bed, emails piling in, some flagged, some marked urgent. I caught the subject line on one before she slammed the screen shut. "Urgent audit review." She looked up at me, panic and suspicion swirling in her eyes. "What do you want?" she asked sharply, her voice tight. I held up the charger cord. "Just this," I said smoothly. She relaxed just enough to breathe. "Sorry," she muttered. "Work's been a lot." I nodded and walked out, heart pounding like a drum. Everything was in motion now. Vanda had what they needed. The auditors were moving in fast. Silas's reputation? In free fall. And Lena, she was beginning to crack. I stayed consistent. Just enough pressure, carefully measured. I sent an anonymous tip to one of her old clients, hinting at some irregularities in her financial records. Didn't take long to see the effect. She started checking her phone every few minutes, biting her nails down to nothing. I hadn't heard her laugh in days. Then one night, she stopped me in the kitchen, voice low like she was afraid of her own words. "Have you heard anything weird? About work? About me?" I tilted my head, playing it cool. "Weird how?" She hesitated, studying me. "Never mind." Forget I said anything. But the look she gave me, pure fear, laced with confusion, told me everything I needed to know. That night, I stayed on the couch again. The keycard dug into my leg, a sharp reminder of why I was doing all this. She thought she could lie her way through this, play the innocent wife while sneaking around behind my back. But the walls were closing in fast. Vanta had enough evidence to bring her crashing down. The audit team was almost done. Silas was toast. All I needed was the right moment to bring the curtain down. The energy in our apartment had shifted completely. It felt heavy, like walking through fog. She barely slept anymore. I'd hear her pacing the floors at 3 a.m., restless and haunted. I kept my distance, watched her unravel one silent step at a time. Vanna had the documents. The auditors were circling like vultures. And Silas? His name was turning toxic in every corner of the industry. Clients were cutting ties. Opportunities vanished. I had pulled the strings on every piece of this. But there was one more thing I wanted. One last, personal confrontation. Something that would force her to look me in the eye and see exactly what she'd done. I picked the spot carefully, Bayview Market. The two of us had spent so many calm, simple Saturdays there back in the early days. Felt right to bring it all full circle. That morning, I sent her a short message. Nothing dramatic. Meet me at the cafe by the fish vendors. Noon. We need to talk. She replied with just one word, okay, short and flat. But somehow it said more than a full paragraph ever could. I got there ahead of her and grabbed a seat outside, where the breeze coming off the harbor carried a salty edge and mixed in with the warm scent of fresh coffee. People moved around us, caught up in their own lives, completely unaware that something serious was about to go down right in their midst. I placed the USB drive on the weathered table, its black casing standing out against the worn wood, and sat back to wait. Right on time, Lena showed up, bundled tightly in her coat to fight off the chill of fall. She looked worn out, like the week had chewed her up and spit her out. The bags under her eyes and the messy hair weren't like her at all. She sat down across from me but didn't look up, didn't meet my eyes. What's this about, Elias? She asked, her voice barely holding together. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I slowly pushed the USB across the table toward her. Her fingers twitched, like she wanted to reach for it, but she didn't move. I leaned forward, rested my arms on the table, and locked eyes with her. Open it, I said, my voice flat, no emotion. See it for yourself. She hesitated for a beat, then picked it up with a shaky hand. From her bag, she pulled out a sleek little tablet and connected the drive. Her hands trembled as she worked, and I watched her closely as the file started loading. The moment the first image popped up, I saw her breath hitch. There it was, a photo of her and Silas, tangled up in each other in the lobby of some hotel. His arm was draped casually around her waist like they didn't have a care in the world. She flipped through the rest, emails, financial statements, the whole mess. Every damning bit of it had already been handed over to Vanta and the audit team. The blood drained from her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, pale as the gulls wheeling overhead. When she finally looked up at me, her mouth moved, but no sound came out. I leaned in slightly. How long did you think you could keep up the lie? I asked, my voice slicing through the background hum of the marketplace. She shrank back in her chair, clutching the tablet to her chest like it could protect her. Elias, please, just let me explain, she said, her voice breaking. I cut her off before she could get further. Reaching into my jacket, I slid a folded paper across the table, a resignation letter I'd written the night before, her signature already forged at the bottom. You're stepping down, I said. Today. Otherwise, everything in that drive goes public. Media, law enforcement, everyone. Her eyes widened, panic spreading across her face. You wouldn't, she whispered. I leaned in closer and dropped my voice. Wanna bet? She kept looking back and forth between the letter and me, her hands shaking. The reality of it all hit her like a freight train. Her eyes welled up, but I sat there, cold as stone. She had made her choices. She brought us to this point. Snatching the paper, she stuffed it and the tablet into her bag. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking under the weight of it all. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the pavement. I didn't say a word. She disappeared into the crowd, clutching the USB like it was her last lifeline. I stayed put, sipping on my coffee. Bitter as hell, and honestly, it fit the moment. The fallout was quick. Brutal, even. By Monday, Lena's resignation hit the agency. But it was too late to stop the storm. Vanta and Company published the full story in a trade magazine. Documents, spreadsheets, the whole ugly truth. The audit team followed up, digging even deeper than I had. Lena was fired on the spot. Her name became a cautionary tale in the industry. As for Silas, he got hit even harder. Lawsuits from 2 clients dropped on him like a hammer. Fraud, deception, the works. His career? Wiped clean from every major platform. That same week, I filed for divorce. Hired a discreet lawyer, someone who knew how to keep things quiet. The papers landed at her mom's place in Meadowbrook, where Lena had holed up after the scandal blew wide open. I sold the apartment, weighed down by too many memories, none of them good. I packed everything up, towering stacks of boxes heading for Summit Falls, a place far enough to give me a shot at a fresh start. Lena tried reaching out one last time. Called me, voice trembling, trying to explain it all again. I hung up halfway through her sentence and blocked the number for good. She lost it all. Her job, her reputation, and whatever we used to be. Silas vanished completely. Last I heard, he was bartending in some no-name town. I didn't care enough to find out if that was true. In Summit Falls, I pieced my life back together, one day at a time. The Rockies gave me a new backdrop, majestic, quiet, humbling. The air out there had this sharpness to it, a kind of honesty I hadn't felt in a long time. I landed a gig at a rising startup, building apps with no ghosts behind them. That old agency badge, still tucked away in a drawer somewhere. I couldn't bring myself to throw it out, but I never looked at it either. Lena thought she could outrun the truth, spinning her lies with Silas like it was just another project. But castles built on lies always fall. Hers was no exception. Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.